Today, we're about to attempt what Bugatti think is impossible. Here is the front of a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, and here is the rear half of a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, and today we've got to connect both of them together.
After a $4 million Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of only 60, was reduced to a pile of shattered carbon fiber, most people thought it had reached the end of the road. But Mat Armstrong saw an opportunity to bring it back to life. However, when the world's most exclusive manufacturer comes into the picture, they not only stall the project, it becomes war. Has Mat's $3 million gamble finally hit a dead end? The Copart gamble. Mat Armstrong had always been known for being a car guy. From his early days as a professional BMX rider to his current career as a YouTube creator who loves to transform cars, it didn't exactly come as a surprise when he developed an interest in rebuilding a wrecked Bugatti. But this idea didn't just pop out of nowhere. It was one single event that lit a bulb in this creator's mind. In 2025, Alex Gonzalez, a 25-year-old Miami-based trader, crashed his $6 million Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. The damage to the car was so bad that it would have cost close to the amount of a new one to have it fixed. But that wasn't the crazy part. Bugatti technicians themselves couldn't exactly fix the car so easily, declaring the vehicle a total loss. Now, the insurance company that the car was signed under paid Alex the claim for it and took possession of the car. In order to get something out of the expensive wreck with them, they decided to auction the hypercar at Copart. And this is where Mat comes into the picture. Typically, everyone knows Copart is usually a place for wrecked Hondas or dented Toyotas. So when news spread that there was a Bugatti on a salvage site, everyone caught wind of it, including Mat and the initial owner, Alex. With both men having strong interest in the car, they went head-to-head in a bidding war. Eventually, Alex won back his car with a bid of more than $1.9 million. With the car back in Alex's hands, Mat decides to collaborate with Alex to fix the Bugatti Chiron while documenting the whole process on his YouTube channel. It seemed like a good deal, but he was just about to take the biggest gamble of his life. This project was considered to be a massive risk because not only did Bugatti lock the VIN, but they also blacklisted the car from receiving any official replacement parts or technical support from authorized dealers worldwide. Bugatti's CEO also publicly came out to say that the vehicle could only be repaired by 2 specialized facilities in the world. However, Mat is set to prove them wrong. Alongside his father and his skills and experience, he believes regular tools in a standard garage can transform the car back to its original form. With his confidence on full display for the world to see, Bugatti officials didn't like the idea of a YouTuber pulling apart their rarest machine. Mat at some point thought it was just a simple mechanical lockout until he realized it was serious. It is a known fact that Bugattis are typically connected to the factory at all times through advanced software. But when he tried to run background checks on the car, Mat discovered that he couldn't even wake up the car's electronics without factory clearance. The car was essentially a giant piece of metal and carbon fiber. Bugatti sent a clear message when they sent a repair estimate of $1.7 million. Not only that, they insisted the structural integrity was gone and the car was too dangerous to exist outside their controlled ecosystem. This was their way of telling Mat to give up and let the car go. The pressure began to weigh on the team, especially since Mat was spending massive amounts of money every week on a project the manufacturer was actively trying to end. The project became a test of patience. Every time they found a solution for a broken part, a new software error appeared to stop them. Mat was stuck in a loop of trying to outsmart engineers who had billions of dollars in resources. From the look of things, getting help was going to be incredibly difficult, and it all became worse when Bugatti's own CEO released a statement. The CEO versus the YouTuber. Bugatti's CEO Mat Rimac was also part of the millions of people who probably watched some of Mat's car transformations. But when Mat came out to say he wanted to transform an already wrecked Bugatti Chiron, Mat Rimac was having it. As a tech visionary, the Bugatti CEO commended Mat's passion and skill, but he also raised concern about the trajectory of his newest project involving one of his products. Rimac also went ahead to debunk some horror stories about prices of some of the parts Mat had purchased for the Bugatti rebrand, claiming that the part prices Mat mentioned in his videos were inflated for views. This created a massive divide online between those who trusted the manufacturer and those who supported Mat Armstrong. But Mat wasn't one to back down without a fight. He pulled out evidence of the actual invoices to prove the prices were real. This turned into more than a fight over a car and became a debate about the right for both Alex Gonzalez and Mat to repair the car. On one side, you had a billionaire CEO protecting his brand's prestige. And on the other, you had a YouTuber arguing the right to fix the car since it was theirs. The public outcry was so loud that the corporate walls started to crack. Eventually, the tension led mate Rimac to state that Mat was welcome to visit the Bugatti factory in Molsheim to discuss the build in person. Behind closed doors, the conversation changed. While the public saw a feud, back-channel talks were happening to see if there was a way to move forward without a legal war. Negotiations for part access were kept quiet, though the atmosphere remained heavy. Even with a foot in the door, Mat realized he was never going to get everything he needed from the factory. The factory wasn't going to hand over the keys to an outsider easily, and the clock was ticking on the build. He had to stop waiting for permission and start finding his own way. Every delay was costing him money and momentum. Since the factory wouldn't play ball, he would have to become his own manufacturer. With the manufacturer blocking the path, Mat had to think big. With the mind of an inventor, he used parts that should never belong on a Bugatti. While stripping the car, he soon came to the realization that since Bugatti belongs to the Volkswagen Group, the hypercar had several components that were identical to the Dane group of cheaper cars. This led to a discovery that saved him a fortune. A factory Bugatti airbag is priced like a luxury SUV, yet Mat found that an Audi A3 airbag fits the steering column perfectly. This $10,000 solution became a viral sensation because it pulled back the curtain on how these hypercars are actually built. It was a brilliant move, even if it made the purists nervous. To handle the missing brackets and interior trim, the team turned to industrial 3D printing. Using high-grade carbon nylon materials, they recreated parts that were once considered impossible to find. This decision brought a lot of heat from critics. People began to wonder if a machine designed to hit speeds over 200 miles per hour should really be held together by DIY components. The safety controversy was real, and Mat had to prove that his engineering was up to the task. Sourcing the rest of the car was like navigating a black market. Mat had to deal with specialized parts brokers who hunt for salvaged hypercar bits in the darkest corners of the globe. These were the only people who could find the items that Bugatti had locked away. Even when he found the parts, he faced a massive aesthetic problem. The original Bugatti Chiron had a very specific Mansouri carbon fiber weave, and matching that pattern without the original factory molds would make it almost impossible to get the car up and running again. Slowly, the car was coming together nicely, and it started to look like a Bugatti again. With the patchwork of Audi parts and printed plastic, the wrecker car was becoming a cohesive machine. Mat was proving that a dedicated team could rebuild what the experts said was dead. But while the body looked better, other parts of the car were going to test modern engineering in many ways. Welding the unweldable. The physical repairs on the outside looked great, yet the mechanical soul of the car was still in pieces. Under the skin, the team found the gearbox mount had snapped completely. Bugatti designed this part to break during a crash to prevent the engine from being crushed. The company also claimed that this particular part of the vehicle couldn't be safely repaired once it was snapped. The only solution was for them to sell Mat a brand new gearbox for $800,000, which was now impossible since he had been blacklisted. As usual, Mat found a way around it. He decided to weld the structural casing back together. This is something most engineers call impossible because the casing is made from a complex mix of aluminum and magnesium. These metals are notoriously difficult to join, especially when they have to support the weight and power of a 16-cylinder engine. They brought in specialists for a masterclass in TIG welding to fuse the metal back into one solid piece. Every centimeter of the weld had to be perfect. Even a tiny air bubble or a weak spot could lead to a total disaster once the car was back on the road. The team had to test if their work could handle the pressure, since the Chiron engine produces 1600 Newton meters of torque. They performed high-stakes stress tests to ensure the metal would not fail under load. The danger here is extreme. If that weld snaps while the car is traveling at 200 miles per hour, the transmission could lock up or shatter. This would cause a life-threatening accident in a matter of seconds. It was a massive risk, yet it was the only way to save the car without spending a fortune. After thorough testing, the engineers were left to trust in what they had just done. The transformation was a win, but to keep that W16 cool, they needed a cooling system that didn't exist anymore. The Bugatti Chiron is essentially a giant heater on wheels. To keep that massive 16-cylinder engine from melting itself, the car uses 10 different radiators. These are not normal car parts you can find at a local shop or order online. Since Mat was on the blacklist, he could not buy them from Bugatti either. This created a massive problem because the front of the car was missing the entire cooling web. Without these parts, the car was nothing. To find a solution, Mat teamed up with the experts at Valvetronic to build a bespoke cooling system. They had to fabricate custom cooling lines and a new exhaust system from scratch. These custom parts were often heavier than the original factory pieces. Typically, Bugatti spends millions of dollars making every component as light as possible, so using over-engineered custom metal meant the car was gaining some weight. It was a trade-off they had to accept to get the machine back on its feet. It wasn't just the cooling system, they had a problem with, they were also faced with airflow dynamics. The front of a Bugatti is shaped perfectly by engineers to shove air into the radiators at high speeds. Because Mat was rebuilding the front end without the original factory molds, which meant the air wasn't moving exactly how the designers intended. They had to get creative with the placement of the new parts to make sure the engine would not overheat during a drive. There was a bright side to all this custom work. The new titanium exhaust created a sound that no factory Bugatti could ever match. Most Chirons are surprisingly quiet for how much power they have, but this one had a unique titanium scream. The physical build was finally reaching the finish line. The metal was welded and the radiators were plumbed. The car was slowly coming together. Everything was in place, but none of it mattered if the car wasn't going to be able to start. The multi-million-dollar first start. After months of staring at a skeleton of carbon fiber and wires, it was finally time to see if the engine still worked. The reveal was filmed and documented in episode 17 of May's YouTube channel. From the look of things at the garage, the tension was thick. Mat stood by the cockpit as they prepared to crank the quad-turbocharged W16 engine for the first time since the accident. The engine was as strong as ever, and because of the custom Valvetronic titanium exhaust and the lack of secondary catalytic converters, the noise was deafening. The team realized this wasn't going to be a quiet cruiser anymore. Even better, the car actually shifted into gear. This was the real proof they needed. It meant the welded gearbox mount was aligned and the sensors were working perfectly well. It was a massive victory over everyone who said the car was scrap. Inside the cabin, things looked a bit more chaotic. The dashboard was glowing with every warning light possible. There were low coolant warnings for both radiator systems and a persistent check engine light. The engine had a noticeable misfire at first, which made sense given how long it had been sitting with old fuel. The screen also showed a critical low fuel warning and several safety faults. Since the Audi A3 airbags weren't officially coded to the car, the computer still thought the car was in the middle of a crash. Despite the hundreds of errors, the fact that this machine could idle and move was a huge win against the technical lockout Bugatti tried to enforce. The car was successfully running, but there were other interesting additions that were made to the car that were jarring. Once the engine was solid, the focus shifted to the cabin. Mat partnered with the experts at E3 Customs for a total aesthetic transformation. They decided to throw away the original interior and replace it with a custom white and purple theme. This bold look was designed to match the specific purple wrap chosen by the car's owner, Alex Gonzalez. This stage was also critical for the safety systems. The team finally tucked the Audi A3 airbags into the dash and wired them into the main computer. Watching the car's brain accept these foreign parts was a huge relief. As of April 2026, the project has reached the final fine-tuning phase. One of the most interesting developments is Bugatti's views on the project. The massive amount of attention from the public seems to have forced the company to reconsider its position. There are strong reports that the official blacklist has been lifted, which is yet to be confirmed. Even the CEO, Mat Armstrong, seems to have backed away from his original refusal to offer any help. Currently, the car is driving under its own power within the workshop environment. The team are spending their days making small adjustments and preparing for the most stressful part of the journey, which is a full road legal inspection. They need to prove the car is safe enough to carry a license plate. Once that is done, they plan to take it out for high-speed testing to see if the custom cooling and welded parts can survive the pressure. It is a high-stakes moment that will determine if the $1.9 million gamble truly paid off. If the car passes inspection, it won't just mark the end of a rebuild. It will signal something much bigger. It will prove that even the most tightly controlled hypercars aren't beyond independent restoration. That idea alone challenges the traditional power held by manufacturers like Bugatti, where access to parts, software, and approval is usually locked behind layers of exclusivity. But the pressure is enormous. Every component will be under scrutiny, from the structural integrity of the repaired chassis to the reliability of the custom cooling system under real-world stress. A single failure at high speed could undo everything the team has worked for. That's why the next phase isn't just about performance. It's about trust. Trust in their craftsmanship, in their engineering decisions, and in the idea that this car can safely return to the road. For Mat and the team, this isn't just a project anymore. It has become a statement about skill, persistence, and pushing boundaries that most people wouldn't dare to approach. And if the car finally roars onto public roads, fully legal and fully functional, it won't just be a victory for them, it will be one of the most talked about rebuilds in automotive history. As if the Chiron weren't enough, Mat doubled down on the madness by buying a second, even more totaled Bugatti. Why stop at one? After almost successfully transforming a wrecked Bugatti Chiron, Matt decided to test his skills one more time and repossessed a Veyron that came with a list of electrical issues that most experts called unfixable. These two cars from the same brand are different in many ways. The Veyron is a mechanical masterpiece, while the Chiron is a digital fortress locked behind layers of secure code. Despite these differences, the experience with the manufacturer was identical. Bugatti followed their usual playbook and tried to block Matt from getting the support or information he needed to move forward. Keeping two hypercars in the shop at once created a massive financial strain. These are not normal cars where you can buy parts at a local store. Every small mistake cost thousands of dollars, and so Matt had to be strategic. He used the tricks he learned from the Chiron to fast-track the Veyron and avoid the same traps. But this project wasn't just about fixing my cars, it was about the rise of a channel that changed the YouTube automotive landscape. The growth was incredible. Millions of views on every episode meant the project started to pay for itself through ad revenue and big sponsors. Matt moved from being a local mechanic to a global celebrity who can influence the car market with one video. He became the face of a movement that values repair over replacement. The community support was a major part of this success. When the manufacturer said no, the fans hopped on the idea. People from all over the world helped him find parts in hidden places and shared technical info that wasn't supposed to be public. Matt set a new standard for what a salvage YouTuber can achieve. Do you think it's crazy to have DIY'd fixing a wrecked Bugatti? And would you ever drive a 3D printed Bugatti at 200 miles per hour? As the Veyron project gained momentum, it became clear that this wasn't just another rebuild, it was a proving ground. Unlike the Chiron, the Veyron didn't rely as heavily on encrypted systems, but its complexity came from a different place. A web of aging electronics, rare components, and engineering decisions that pushed the limits of what was possible at the time. Every fix required patience, experimentation, and sometimes pure guesswork. There were moments when progress stalled completely, when a single unresolved fault threatened to shut everything down. But each small breakthrough added to a growing sense that the impossible was slowly becoming manageable. At the same time, the pressure to deliver content never stopped. Every episode had to balance storytelling with real technical progress, and the audience was watching closely. Expectations were higher than ever. Yet that pressure also fueled innovation. Matt and his team began developing their own solutions, modifying parts, reverse engineering systems, and documenting everything in a way that made complex engineering accessible to millions. By the time both projects were nearing completion, something had shifted. It was no longer just about two cars. It was about rewriting the rules of ownership, showing that even the most exclusive machines in the world could be understood, repaired, and driven again outside of factory control. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.